This KPJ emergency trade and Cavs Nets victory episode of the Cavs on the Break NBA podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Aligned Health Center. Aligned Health Center is the first chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio. The team at Aligned Health Center helps patients with back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and much more. And along with chiropractic biophysics, Aligned Health Center is also the leading clinic in regenerative medicine. You may have heard it as stem cell injections. And listen, you don't have to be an NBA player to get it done or have this treatment. If you have low back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, or even arthritis, check out the Regenerative Medicine Clinic at Aligned Health Center. Come in for a free consultation, get some imaging done and x-rays to see how Aligned Health Center can help you. Look, no multiple shots, and the process is complete with physical therapy built into the process, so there's no downtime. And look, it gets even better. Aligned Health Center doesn't charge people for x-rays or exams, and they don't bill you later. They let you know right away, right up front, how much it's going to cost. They are transparent, and they are number one for a reason. Call Aligned Health Center today at 440-385-7357 or visit their website at alignedhealthcenters.com to make an appointment and to learn more about how Aligned Health Center can help you. You can also check this out in the show notes. Again, that's 440-385-7357 or visit alignedhealthcenters.com. In this episode, Sam and I break down the Cavs and Rockets Kevin Porter Jr. trade. We look back on the amazing Cavs victory over the Nets and look ahead to the Week 5, Week 6 slate. Look, these Cavs are good. They have depth, and Colin Sexton is a star. Be excited, Cavs fans. This is going to be fun. Enjoy the show.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for a Cavs on the Break NBA podcast part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, he's the editor and writer at 48minutes.com, assistant editor at Outkick.com. He is our Cavs insider, national NBA writer, Sam Amico. Sam, the NBA never sleeps. It never sleeps.
And therefore, neither do I. But, yeah, it's always busy. Both podcasts that we've done each week, there's been a Cavs trade. So there you go.
Breaking news tonight, a little shams bomb action going. The Cavs have traded Kevin Porter Jr. to the Rockets for a second-round protected pick. And that's it. Sam, do you want to talk about the trade first or the big Cavs Nets game? Because we almost recorded last night. We couldn't. But that was an emergency. That was emergency pod worthy. What do you want to talk about first? Or does one precede the other?
Boy, they're both good topics. I think if we talk about the Kevin Porter Jr. trade first, that maybe we'll get that out of the way because there's a lot to talk about in that game. And of course, the rematch Friday night. Yes.
Okay. So let's jump to it. The Kevin Porter Jr. I'm not going to say saga. I'm going to say tragedy has come to an end in Cleveland. Just a kid who had so much promise, so much, and not really a lot of expectation either. I mean, he was a low round draft pick. So for a team that just was touting their young core to kind of acknowledge that they're going to move on, brings back floods of other failed first round picks and really tough look. So sad for Kevin Porter Jr. What Cavs have just had enough.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I feel hopeful for him as a person, and he's 20 years old. It's not like he's
so young.
Right. It's not like we're talking about a 45-year-old man here who's running out of chances. He's a young kid, and you hope that he'll pull it together because he did have difficulties at USC. And there were some difficulties there. And I mean, he comes from a tough background. He's got a difficult background and had, struggles as a child, just growing up in a tough situation. So some of that has come out as he's entered young adulthood. So which can happen. But I tell everybody who asks me about him, and I'm not making this up, Chase, everybody who asked me about him, the first thing I say is he was a wonderful guy to talk to in the locker room, just personable, polite, even almost like overly respectful. So I mean, I know obviously he gets a bad rap, and he's done some things that lead to issues, but you just hope that he can put it all together. From the Cavs standpoint, yeah, it's kind of a sad thing. I had a general manager tell me that last year entering the draft, KPJ was a top 5 talent.
Yeah, that was yeah. I remember
But
hearing
he
that.
slipped. Yeah, he slipped to 30th for a reason. Another example is I can tell you when he got drafted, I tried to call the USC coach Andy Enfield to do a favorable story on Kevin, and the USC coach did not want to talk. He's like, no, that's okay. I'd just rather not, which is rare when they know that it's going to be a favorable type of thing. So I don't think he was going to say bad things about Kevin, but I don't think he wanted to put his own reputation on the line for him either. So, look, Kevin is going to get an opportunity here with a team that's almost kind of like an island of misfit toys with John Wall and Victor Oladipo and DeMarcus Cousins. Steven Silas should be a very good coach for him. You do hope for the best for him. But from the Cavs standpoint, you obviously felt you had to move on. And I think it went beyond Chase. I think it went beyond the locker room situation or the off-season arrest and car accident, which we know the charges from that were dropped. So because the Cavs before this whole locker room incident, if you remember, Chase, were holding him out.
Yeah.
For some reason. He was not playing. He was not practicing. He had just come back to practice Thursday, and then Friday there's the game, and he goes in the locker room and sees that his locker's been moved and responds to it very unprofessionally, to say the least. And you can't do that with your general manager. Your general manager can't allow that because that's his position commands respect, and he's kind of like, frankly, Kobe Altman is the principal of the Cavs. I mean, he's above the coach. He hires the coach. He decides on the roster, and he's generally pretty patient and kind and up builds the players up. So for somebody to disrespect him in that way, he didn't deserve that. Kobe Altman, I'm sure he didn't. So you have to move on when there's numerous situations, I'm sure, that led up to that. And that was just the final straw. It wasn't the thing that made them want to trade him.
Right. Off the court, this is just sad. You hate to see someone get to the point where a team's like, we're done. So we do hope that Kevin in Houston is able to find the help he needs and surround himself with people that care for him and want the best for him. And if the charges and the car wreck in November, any indication, hopefully he, this is kind of like a wake up call, and what has happened is kind of helps steer him in the right direction. But on the court, you can't deny his talent and his ability to make plays and play basketball. And, I went to a couple games last year, and when he was in the game, he looked like one of the best players on the court. He looked like he belonged, and you just would envision what they could do with him. And so that's sad. Sam, how much did the Harden trade and bringing on Prince accelerate some of these? I mean, I know that was like the ingredient that went into the whole locker room incident, but was that really the writing on the wall before even the locker room thing?
It could have been. I think at that point they were going to, I think the Cavs were ready to give him another opportunity. Obviously, after the trade, they brought him back to practice. He came to the game last Friday against the Knicks and cheered on the Cavs. So I don't think that they were thinking we're definitely going to trade him. But the writing was probably on the wall there, because the Cavs do have a lot of wing players. They've been very impressed with Okoro, particularly defensively. it got to a point where it was kind of like, well, where's Kevin Porter Jr. going to fit in all this? They also have Windler. Jetty's been playing well, even though he's been a little sporadic. Still, he's been playing well. He had a great game against the Nets. So you did have to wonder, where is Kevin Porter Jr. going to be? Where's he going to fit in all this? Now, I think the Cavs are willing to find that out, but they weren't going to be willing to find it out with headaches. And now, Chase, they have available roster spot. There's going to be more moves coming, probably a big move, with Andre Drummond.
Is that inside info, or is that just your gut?
That's my gut. I mean, there's no way they can keep him. I mean, the guy didn't play at all in overtime. How's that going to sit with him? And he's never been an issue or any of that. So that's not what I'm trying to imply. But the reality of the situation is the Cavs have found their center for the future, and the other guy is on an expiring contract, and negotiations on an extension went nowhere. So, he'll be. Posted a thing from Channing Frye the other day. Channing Frye went on NBA TV and said, Andre Drummond is gone. He's gone. They're going to trade him. There's no question about it. It's just a matter of when, not if. And that's true. And that's not even a personal thing. It's business. So, look, Channing Frye could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But, building off that Kevin Porter Jr. trade, the big one is coming. I strongly predict and have a very strong feeling about that.
So we open up a roster spot. We get a protected second round pick. Here's a list of names drafted in the second round, Sam. So it's not just a throw in. It's going to be a high second round pick. The Rockets, they're not the best team. They're not obviously the worst team, but there's a good chance it could be pretty high. Just some names thrown out there: Gilbert Arenas, Dennis Rodman, Isaiah Thomas, Marcus Gasol, Draymond Green, Manu Ginobili, Nikola Jokic. So,
I'm glad you mentioned the Cavs' favorite, Draymond Green.
Well, he's a second round pick.
He was 35th, I believe.
So it's not like this is a, this is a shoe-in practice squad or guys out of the league in 5 months. That's not going to
5 minutes.
Yeah. It could be, but also there's some players in the second round. So we'll see what happens. If anything, it's an asset to include in another trade, right? Sure. I mean, we saw what they did with Indy and the Harden trade.
Well, they got Kevin Porter Jr. for, I think, 4 second round picks to the Pistons when the Pistons drafted him at 30th back in last in 2019. So you can use those second round picks to acquire other players.
Some more ammunition for Kobe Altman and company to do some work. Sam, I know that they were trading, but was the victory of the Nets at home the nail in the coffin? And it was just like, oh, we really don't need him.
Well,
and I say that in jest because it's not but
I think it did kind of it. I don't know that the Cavs thought that. I will say this. I thought it. And it wasn't just a victory over the Nets. I thought this team, I was like, where is he going to play when he comes back? Now, granted, there were times we all saw The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. There were times where Kevin Porter Jr. looked a lot like Ron Harper.
Yeah.
The old Cavs guard who got traded for Danny Ferry years and years ago, 30 years ago. But he had that kind of upside. He had that kind of slashing, and he still does. I mean, he didn't become a worse basketball player. I also thought that he was probably going to be closer to kind of a Larry Hughes type, which was a very good player, but maybe not, maybe kind of a borderline all-star. Now, again, KPJ can still be that kind of player. He can still be a starter in this league. It's not his basketball skill that's under question, but when it comes to the Cavs, I did kind of think, where's he going to fit in this year? Because they did draft Okoro, and Garland is playing very well when healthy, very well. Darius Garland looks like a different guy. Sexton's just been on fire when he plays.
Talk about him in a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you do have Windler Now you have Prince, who is a pretty good defender and could be an excellent fit here. Dotson, who had a nice game against the Nets. Damian Dotson had a very underrated game.
He has played so well, even though it
Yeah.
hasn't translated into wins. He's been a really, really solid guy for this Cavs team.
He's done everything they've asked. He's had to play point guard sometimes,
Yep.
and he's just, that's not his natural spot at all. So, again, you wondered where he would have fit, and the Cavs have played. Colin Sexton said it last night. When we have all our guys and we're healthy, we think we can do a whole lot. And so far, when that's the situation, everybody's healthy, they have done a whole lot. They've been very impressive.
I want to wrap up our Kevin Porter Jr. talk because I think the other point that you mentioned and highlighted is Isaac Okoro's, development and ability to play right away didn't help any leverage that KPJ had either. His ability to defend multiple positions better than he did, to make smart, that wasn't in his favor either. And Sam, I've not been shy of my, my love for Okoro. I think he's fantastic. I mean, 43 minutes. I mean, he had 6 fouls, but I mean, those were incredible minutes against some of the MVP finals. Like, you can't get any better, more valuable minutes than this. And he is checking all the boxes that you want. And I think you have him and Sex. You start putting together this like long, length, athletic lineup with the Cavs that we haven't seen, Sam, in years. And so I think Okoro's development really didn't help KPJ either.
Right. They gave the Cavs the leverage in any kind of situation involving KPJ. So yeah, Okoro's been, to me, he's been fantastic. He's not been a big numbers guy, but that he really does remind me in terms of effectiveness of Iguodala, of a young Iguodala. Now he may never score as much as Iguodala did as a young guy with the Sixers, but he certainly has that potential. Right now, I mean, the kids played what, less 14 NBA games, way less than 14, 13, 12, somewhere in there, but way less than 20 is what I meant. And I just think you got to love what you see from him, particularly defensively. Gritty player, athletic player, confident player, and yet still very much feeling his way around the NBA. So that did give the Okoro's effectiveness, immediate effectiveness, I'm sure gave the Cavs some leverage when dealing with the Kevin Porter Jr. situation. So, hey, good luck to him, because I stand by thinking that he's a wonderful guy. He's just, he's got some things that he's got areas he's got to grow up in, and you could say that about a lot of people. So,
Yep. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back. We're going to talk about the Cavs victory over the Nets, baby. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hi, my name's Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Aaron Shipe, co-host of the Tim and Shipe Show. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we love talking college football. We talk everything from Florida Gators to the Ohio State Buckeyes. If you like college football, check us out. Thanks.
Hey, the Roadman Kenny Rhoda. Join me and Dennis Maniloff on the Next Man Up podcast as we look at all the teams in the Buckeye State, the Browns, the Indians, the Cavaliers, the Buckeyes, and whatever's happening, we'll be talking about it here on the Next Man Up podcast.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Using a narrative storytelling approach, the Hyman Podcast was created to start conversations that need to be human. Week by week, I'll break down walls and barriers and make people wildly uncomfortable, all the while giving a voice to the voiceless and the marginalized. Consider this your personal invitation to be part of that conversation.
All right, we are back. Sam, what a game last night. Oh my goodness. If you have been under a rock for the last 48 hours, well, you missed a terrible time to go under a rock, because not only did the internet go undefeated yesterday with all the memes you could ever ask, but the Cavs played an incredible game of basketball and beat the Brooklyn Nets in Kyrie Irving's debut. Well, first game with Harden and KD, double overtime thriller. Sam, is this the biggest regular season win for the Cavs in the last 5 years?
Well, since LeBron left, so last 3, I guess.
I don't know of even a bigger regular season game with LeBron. Maybe the Christmas Day game against the Warriors.
Well, with LeBron, you usually expected him to win. So, but that Christmas Day game, with when Kyrie hit another last second shot,
right?
Just about when the Warriors first had Durant. But this has been, when the Cavs are healthy, this has been really the kind of team they've had dating back to last season under JB Bickerstaff. Because if you remember, they beat the eventual Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat.
Yeah.
After the coaching change, and then the win last night. They don't really have many bad losses. The one loss that they had that they probably should have won, the one game that I always think, okay, that was probably their only bad loss this season, was the Knicks, the first game against the Knicks at home.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the Knicks are so improved. I'm right now watching. I told you I turned on the game almost by accident, watching the Knicks blow out the Golden State Warriors at Golden State right now. They are just such an improved team under Tom Thibodeau. So I would go back to that, and I wouldn't even say that's a bad loss.
Right.
But beating the Nets with Kyrie, Durant, and Harden in their first game together, the entire world's going to be watching, because everybody wants to see the big three of the Nets. And look, after that first overtime, they got down in that first overtime chase, where I kind of thought the Cavs were like, well, you know what? At least they took them to overtime. Good for them. But I just thought it was over. Yeah. I was like, it's over. That's okay. And then
the Nets thought that too. The Nets thought that too. The Nets were like, oh, we came back.
Yes.
We're going to win this.
Yeah. And you know what? I wouldn't have blamed the Cavs for thinking it too, but they didn't. And, that's one thing I really like about this year's team is it's like, yeah, everybody keeps counting us out. We're not going to make the playoffs. We're not going to do it. All they hear is what they can't do. And they're just kind of playing like, you know what, we have nothing to lose, because if we lose a lot, well, that's what everybody expects. But if we win and we've got the talent to win, let's go win. And they've been just extremely well-coached team. Give a lot of credit to the players for responding to the coach. Mm-hmm. And give a lot of credit to me and I know I can be hard on Kobe Altman. I really can, because part of it's my job. I mean, I consider the guy a friend, and still do, but I can be hard on him, but I think he's done a good job of getting these pieces in place, mm-hmm. The right kind of people in place. And that's why you part ways when a guy is not all in, and that's what he did. So I give them a lot of credit for not just beating the Nets, but for the way this whole season has taken shape.
You were not exaggerating when you said the whole world was watching. This is a little bit about the audience for last night's game. Last night, Wednesday, was that Wednesday night, Thursday night? Yeah.
It was Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday night's Brooklyn Cleveland game was the most viewed game in the U.S. and fourth most viewed game globally on League Pass this season. Viewers were up 115%, and watch hours were up 227% versus the per game averages for the season. By far the most electric games of the season. And Sam,
they were all tuning in to see the Nets, and guess what they got to see? Colin Sexton.
Sexton, baby. 20 straight points. The Cavs haven't experienced that kind of takeover really since, I mean, you think back to the Browns 25 against Detroit, but what he did, Kyrie guarding him, wearing his number on the night that we recognized Kyrie, wearing Kyrie Irving's shoes. It reminded me of Kyrie. I thought of the San Antonio game Kyrie had, where he just kind of took over in the fourth. Kyrie gets a lot of flack, and he brings it on himself. But he is cold blooded, man, and he can ball, or he likes to hoop, however they word that. His game against the Celtics, it's just he has these moments, and the whole world got to watch Colin Sexton do what we've seen flashes of, but never to this scale against this kind of talent on this stage. Sam, it was pretty special.
Yeah, and you're doing something right if you're Colin Sexton when Kyrie Irving is praising you after the game, saying that your performance made him smile, and just showed you the ultimate respect, And I just think it was the kind of performance that Colin Sexton, I mean, he's come close to those kind of games. He's been playing when he's healthy. He plays, which is most of the time he's healthy. He missed 5 games his entire career, and it just happened to be the 5 games before that. But he's really been putting on shows since the middle of last season.
Yep, you're right.
And for him to come out when you just announced the numbers, for him to come out with a game like that when everybody is watching, the kind of game that's really going to make people start to, not just Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. They're still going to watch them, but they're also going to want to see what Colin Sexton did. And, so I just think, and the Cavs don't have to be a non-factor when LeBron's not here. And I think that they're starting to realize that as an organization, and they're playing with pride. And Sexton is just the epitome of that, because the guy just never stops. He never slows down. He never stops believing. He never stops playing hard. He just has, he's got one speed, and it's a great sight for Cavs fans, I can assure you.
The Cavs get back to 500. They've won 2 straight. They play the Nets again Friday night. So tonight, whenever you're probably listening to this on Friday morning or sometime during the day, Friday, they play Friday night against the Nets once again. But the excitement on Twitter and what just happened, what was truly remarkable. KD 38 points, just in case anyone was wondering what he was able to do. Just incredible. Chetty had himself a game last night. For someone who really inconsistent, he really, I mean, the Cavs were out to a pretty surprising lead the whole game, and kind of let it slip there in the fourth. Chetty had a really good game, Sam.
Yeah, 27.7 rebounds, 7 assists, very complete game. He, 16 of those points were in the first half, so he really was
all over the place.
And kind of the reason that they were able to, withstand that. The Nets went 10 of 10 to start the game. So Chetty was a big reason that, and you know what, he has that potential. He's the only issue I think anybody would have with Chetty is consistency. We don't need 27 points from you one night, then 0 the next. How about 13 a night, every night that we know we can count on? And you know what, I think he's getting closer to that. So, and you're always going to have guys who are inconsistent. Every team has guys who are inconsistent. But if he can play well in the big games, then that's all you can ask. So it was, look, they only played 8 people because the 8 people who played so well. And I think everybody really contributed. Larry Nance Jr., very underrated contributions as usual. We talked about Dotson, Okoro. So, I mean, everybody, that's what they have to do. And Garland tomorrow is a game time decision, or Friday night is a game time decision against the Nets. When they get him back, it's going to be even better. So, because I mean, they were playing so well with him, and he was playing, he played his best as a pro this first stretch of the season. So, all those things are biggies, and now with Jared Allen, you don't have to worry so much. You can breathe a little bit easier about the Andre Drummond situation because you know who your guy is going to be moving forward. You assume that. It's tough to think that both of those guys are still going to be here after the March 25th trade deadline.
And so we have this Colin Sexton narrative. We have the Kyrie returning tribute, first time he's playing and blah, 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 blah narrative. But also, oh, by the way, we just made a trade with this team and we have two really, really good pieces in Jared Allen and Taurean Prince, who played extremely well when they were in. Jared Allen, 31 minutes, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks. Prince, 31 minutes, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. 4 for 4, Prince 3 for 5 on the line. Just incredible depth players that, sometimes the Cavs have struggled to have really, really good production from the bench, and they were huge. They had this incredible element to the team. That's a special. And I think Prince, people don't understand like what he's able to bring, the flexibility, the ability to kind of change lineups. What you get with Allen. He's tall, quick, fast. The Cavs were really surprised about how athletic he was running the floor. I think, who said that? Did Sexton say that? Or who mentioned, maybe Larry Nance did. Someone said that they were just like surprised by his afro, but also how fast he was going up and down the court. I forget who said that.
Well, I will say this, Allen came as advertised.
Yep.
There's no surprises there. And he was having, he seemed like he was kind of turning a corner those first 12 games that he played in Brooklyn this year. So Kobe Allen did a fantastic job in that trade. Just fantastic. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, Prince is one of those guys that I always like. I know everybody likes the superstars. I like the guys who everybody kind of forgets about that can make a big difference. And he is the perfect type of player for today's game. He's a very good perimeter defender, which is what you need in today's game. He's he's just a very team-oriented guy. He doesn't force anything. He's not out there looking for his. And I just think that he's going to be a kind of a little silent assassin off the bench for this Cavs team, because they could use that type of a veteran. He's still only 26 years old. So
Prince is one of those players where I see on another team, I'm like, oh man, why don't the Cavs ever have a player like that?
Right. Yes.
And hey, we have one. And it's just, credit to Altman, credit to Biggerstaff, who it seems they're on the same page about getting the same kind of players. And Sam, all of a sudden we're living in a world where the Browns are the epitome of like how to get a franchise turned around. The Cavs seem to be the epitome of rebuilding a team. And it's just like, what is going on? It's crazy, but I'm here for it, man. We're going to close out the show looking at the end of the week 5 slate. We talked about the game against the Nets today, but then on Sunday, the Cavs travel to Boston, play the Celtics, and then they host the Lakers in the week 6 slate. So we have a couple difficult games, Sam, the next 3 games, but then we have Pistons, Knicks, Timberwolves. So again, kind of flirting with this 500 record, it seems. If we can kind of keep that, Sam, you still feeling good about the playoffs? You feeling good, better, or worse about the playoffs?
Chase, if the season ended today, the Cavaliers would be the 6th seed and play the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round.
Woo. Well, I'll tell you what, I like my chances against Coach Bud in the playoffs, so I'll take it.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, I look, with a play-in tournament, I think that they'll be in the one of the top 10 teams. The New York Knicks and Atlanta Hawks would also be in the playoffs if the season ended today. So, and they're going to be, some teams that I believe that made it last year that probably aren't going. The first one that comes to mind for me, and maybe they could still get it turned around, but I said this before the season, I didn't have high hopes for the Toronto Raptors. I thought they were kind of riding the post-Kawhi high last year.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll be back. I would be surprised, although, Orlando's going to be one of those teams that the Cavs are going to have to beat out. Miami would not be in the playoffs right now if the playoffs started, but I'll tell you what, they will be in the playoffs. So it's kind of like the Orlando Charlottes and Toronto's, and who knows what will become of the Washington Wizards with Russell Westbrook. So a lot of time left, but something exciting to think about early, right?
And it's very exciting for the fans. It seems everyone is enjoying this kind of Cavs euphoria, and something that the city's proud of, and something the fans are proud of, and that they want to get in and support, which is very, very exciting. Sam, we're going to record again in February, so give it a week or so. We'll come back, talk about slate games, barring any major trade. We'll plan to kind of touch base in February. How's that sound, man?
That sounds great. And then, we can talk about, maybe because the Super Bowl's in February, how much better it would have been had the Browns been there. And why it'll be awesome, because they'll be there next year, right?
Well, I'm probably able to record more Cavs pods because the Browns aren't in the playoffs. So, well, that does it for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to our new presenting sponsor, Aligned Health Center. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making all of this possible. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Make sure to follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Get all of his work and writings at 48minutes.com and nowkick.com for breaking news, insider info, and more. Do not miss out. Sam, any final thoughts?
I'm making play-in tournament T-shirts. So I'm not really, but if anybody wants to buy
put me down for 17 of them.
I was going to say, one for everyone. If anybody wants to buy them, just send me a check and or PayPal, and I'll send you a T-shirt. It'd probably be colored in crayon or whatever, but you can get one.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'll make sure to get my T-shirt order in. Mike Breen, take us out!
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.